Hello everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the next lecture by Quick2Algo YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss multi-level queue scheduling algorithm. So without any further delay, let's start with the algorithm and see how it works. Now let's start with the name of the algorithm, and its name itself has some very important clues to as to how this algorithm is going to work. So see, as the name suggests, it has multi-level queue scheduling. So what does multi means? Many. That is more than one. So there will be more than one queues and they are will be at the different level. So what do we mean by the level? By level we mean priority. So priority of the queues, not of the process but of the queues, because at each of the level the queue will have a different priority, and based on those priority process will go inside those queues and they will be scheduled for the execution by the CPU. And queue, you already know, it's a data structure that supports first in first out principle. So that's why we are using queues. And scheduling, we all know that how to give CPU time to the processes and on what algorithm. So that is what scheduling basically means. Now, the first question that we must ask is when to use multi-level queue and why to use it. See, this is a algorithm which is used when we have processes. PI suggests many processes. I is a subscript. For example, if I write process 0, process 1, process 2. So instead of writing like this, I am writing PI. So don't get confused. So when processes can be classified, when can classified on certain properties of the processes itself, then we are going to use the multi-level queue. And what can be those properties? See, one can be type. I'll just let you know what the type is. Another can be IO time, how much IO time it needs, and other, etc. Many different. So what does the type mean? See, type process can be of different time. For example, it can be a foreground process or a background process. It can be a system process. It can be a user process. It can be a interactive process, interactive or batch process. It can be a user or system process. So these are the types based on which we can classify the processes on a type. Then we can use different queues and multi-level queue algorithm to schedule those processes. So for example, if we have n classifications are there, then we will have different n different queues, and each queue will have its priority. And each queue here, one important point is that each queue, QUE, will have its own scheduling algorithm. Here we don't follow a global algorithm for all the queues. Here each queue will have its own scheduling algorithm, and that will give us a much more flexibility over what kind of and what type of processes and how to schedule them. So this is an advantage of multi-level queue. It gives us our a great advantage and great flexibility over what kind of process is there, and based on that type we can schedule it with a different set of algorithms for each queue. And we'll see just in the next slide how to do that. Now let's take a look with this diagram. This is a very simple diagram. We have taken like there are we have just a second. Yeah, we have three queues: Q0, Q1, and Q2. Now the priority of Q0 is higher. Based on this priority, as we go up, priority increases. So priority of Q2 is lowest, and priority of Q0 is highest. Now, now let's see how this works. See. For example, Q0 gets the processes which are system processes. System processes are those processes which runs and manages the system. For example, memory management, IO management runs by the OS. So they manage the system. System means your computer or your device, and they are OS processes. Okay? So they are doing this and they are the highest priority because your system has to get its priority, otherwise, because it is the thing on which every other application is running. Now, other type of process, maybe I have taken three examples: system, interactive, and batch. There can be many other. There are student processes also. There are non-interactive batch processes also. So you can look them up on the internet, and they are very simple. You can just get a gist of them. What are the different processes from the net? Okay, so interactive processes, they require end user interaction. For example, Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a process running on that. So you have to interact with the Google Chrome. Now, I want to open www.youtube.com. So there is some kind of interaction going on. You will type something, some address on your keyboard. It is getting to entered, and then process will execute, and different things will happen. Okay, this is end user interaction. So they are called as interactive processes. What are batch processes? Batch processes are those processes which runs without end user interaction. For example, your any app is updating itself. Okay, so that can be you have just clicked update. After that, the entire process goes on running. It downloads the update packages, is installs it, and it removes the redundant files. So that kind of processes are called as batch processes. I have taken these for example. Now see how this works. Suppose there are uh, three system processes in the system. So those three system processes will get scheduled in this queue node. There are two interactive processes. They will come and they will go inside this queue. And there is only one batch process that will come and inside this. Now, one thing you should keep in mind, lower queue, lower queues can execute their processes. Or we can also say that lower queues can give their process for execution to the CPU only when higher priority queues are empty. Queues are empty. Okay. So if there is a process in system processes queue, then a batch process cannot execute or an interactive process cannot execute. So lower queues can only execute their process only when higher priority queues are empty. So this is a very important point and you must always remember this. This is the gist of multi-level queue. Now look at the another point also. Now, one more important thing is that in this type of design, there is one more constraint. What is another constraint? First is lower queues can't execute unless higher queues are empty and processes can't move from one queue to another because we have classified in them different queues based on the type of process. A process cannot change its type, so they cannot change their queues because we have a queue for a system process, we have a queue for interactive process, we have a queue for batch process. A batch process cannot suddenly become a system process. That's why they cannot change its queue. So these two are the constraints of this algorithm, and they are very important constraints because we are building up upon a concept that we are dividing those queues based on the type of process. So these two constraints has to be there. And since there is a priority, so a system process is if it's there in the ready queue and it wants to execute, a batch process cannot preempt it. It should not preempt it. Okay, so that's why we have these two constraints. Now look at the example, and that example will help us to get a proper idea about how this algorithm works. Now, one thing that you should keep in mind is that every queue here will have its own scheduling algorithm, as we have talked about in the very first slide. Suppose that the system queue, just suppose that the system queue is following round robin with time quanta equal to say 2. Okay, and interactive process is following FCFS and batch is also following the FCFS. For just simplicity sake, they can follow any of the scheduling algorithm except multi-level queue algorithm because they cannot multi-level queue cannot be implemented with multi-level queue. So round robin, FCFS and FCFS, we have assumed they are following. Now queue system will have a higher priority. So priority, this will have a higher priority and this will have a lowest priority. Okay, that's clear. This is just from the previous diagram. You can just go and take a look at that. Okay, now start making the Gantt chart. This is the Gantt chart. Gantt chart. This is very important. This is what the core of the scheduling type numericals is. If you get the Gantt chart right, you have got the whole numerical right. Otherwise, you are in the big trouble. So let's start making. Now what is the way to do it? Now see, at t equal to 0, at t equal to 0, what are the processes we have in our ready queue? We have P1 and P2 because their arrival time is 0, 0. So how this will work? P1 has came, so let P1 will be in the system type of process, so it will go in the system queue. Okay, and P2 has come, but it is a batch type process, so it will go in the batch queue. Now we will execute first the highest priority queue. So queue system P1 will be popped and it will come here. P1 will come here. This is 0 and P1 will be scheduled, and we have a time quanta of 2 and it is bursted, so it will run for 2 unit of time. Okay, P1 is done. Now what is the time now? Time is now t equal to 2. So at t equal to 2, what is the status of the ready queue? We have P2 in the system. Then P3 has also arrived in the system. P3 is a interactive process. So it will go into this queue. Okay. Now, interactive process has a higher priority and it follows the first come first serve principle. So we will allot it the CPU time. Now we are assuming it is non-preemptive, non-preemptive. So P3 will get its time and P3 will be scheduled here. Sorry, P3 will get, and burst time is 3, so it will run for P3 has a burst time of, P3 has a 4 unit, no? So it will work for 6 unit time, and P3 is also done. This is also popped from here. Now time is 6. So at t equal to 6, what is the status of the ready queue? At t equal to 6, we have P2 in the system and we have P4 in the system. P4 is what type of process? System process. It will come here. Now, P2 will still not get its time for execution because the higher priority queue still has a process inside it. Okay, so it will go again and P4 will be scheduled. P4 will get how much time? 1 unit time. P4 will be executing for 1 unit. It will 7 and it is done. P4 is done. Now, at last, what is the process remaining? P2 is remaining. It's a batch process. It is remaining at very last interval. So it will be executed and P2 will come. It will be scheduled and P2 has 3 units. So at 10. So this is the entire Gantt chart we have prepared. And this is a very simple example we have just looked to understand how this process works. We can have much more complicated. For example, this is round robin. This can also be round robin. Its time quanta is 2. Its time quanta can be 4. And this type of many type of algorithms are there. You will find some of the numericals in the books and Wikipedia or any other source also. You can just take a look at them and try to solve them. So this is like how to go about and how to fill up the Gantt chart for these kind of processes. Now, before concluding with the lecture, let's look at some of the problems that we can face using multi-level queue scheduling. First of all, first problem that can arise is of starvation. Yes, if you are thinking about this, you are very correct and you have just got the whole concept of multi-level queue. See, what happens is that suppose higher priority queues keeps getting processes. Okay, say system processes keeps on coming. Then what happens to the lowest priority queue, a batch queue? This process will keep on waiting. So it will lead to starvation if the higher priority queue keeps getting its processes. So it may lead to starvation. There's always a may. It will not always happen, but if something can go wrong in the computer system, it will go wrong because it's a hardware based system. So it will definitely go wrong. So we have to keep in mind that there is a chance of starvation for the lower priority processes. Now, also, there is a flexibility with respect to what kind of scheduling algorithm we can use for what type of process, but there is also a degree of inflexibility. Now, what kind of inflexibility we are talking about? The inflexibility which we are talking about is that there is a fixed type fixed type of process, and based on those types we have classified the process and the different queues. So there is a degree of inflexibility, but at the same time there is a degree of flexibility with respect to what kind of scheduling algorithm we can use for each type. So there is a trade-off between what fixed type and flexibility with respect to the type of scheduling algorithm for each queue of each type. Okay, and there is also we can say that we have to maintain multiple queues. Maintaining multiple queues will pose some complexity, so it is little bit complex. But apart from that, there are not much bigger issues with that. It is multi-level queue has in fact generated in order to solve some of the very different type of process, because we have in the OS which we use, there are processes of different time. There are batch process, there are interactive processes, there are system processes, there are student processes, and different type of processes. And this gives us a flexibility and advantage to how to schedule those types of processes, how to maintain different queue apart from the ready queue, to maintain the different types of processes, and how to schedule them. And it also gives us advantage and flexibility about what kind of scheduling algorithm we want to use for the different queues. That is, for different types of processes, what algorithm we want to use to schedule. So this is the multi-level queue algorithm, and in the next video, we are going to discuss about the multi-level feedback algorithm. There is also multi-level queue, but there is a mechanism of feedback, and there will also study a concept about aging and starvation. We will see how it helps to tackle the starvation issue. So in the next video, I hope to see you there. Till then, have a good day. Keep revising, keep learning. Okay, bye bye.